An agent of a secret order whose goal is to face the supernatural looks for her missing father in a place that doesn't exist, a parallel plane trapped in an eternal loop of unending fear. Now she and her trusty companions, a hacker, an occultist, and her trusty dog, must venture into the perimeter and discover its secrets and the meanings of its deeper enigmas. Sit back and let me tell you everything you need to know about Enigma of Fear. Enigma of Fear is the work of Rafael Lange, aka Cellbit, a Brazilian content creator in partnership with Dumativa game studio, also from Brazil. The game is based on and takes place in the same universe of Cellbit's long-running Ordem Paranormal series, Paranormal Order, a tabletop RPG actual play that has run for multiple seasons and is tremendously famous in Brazil. The way I like to put it, to clarify how big they are, is their Brazilian Critical Role. During their second season, The Secret in the Forest, Dumativa Game Studio approached Cellbit to discuss the potential of adapting the universe to the interactive medium. After a few months of discussions, plannings, and some early development, the game was announced via an augmented reality game, with a very successful crowdfunding campaign following. Enigma of Fear was released on November 28, 2024, to a very positive reception. Enigma of Fear is set in the same universe as Ordem Paranormal, and features characters that had previously been seen in the actual play, now given the chance to tell their own story. I know this might sound like this is a game purely for fans, but that isn't the case. I didn't know a single thing about the origins of the series, and still enjoyed the entirety of the experience. The game stars Mia, the daughter of a man called Verity, the leader of the Ordo Realitas, an organization tasked with confronting the supernatural and resolving crises dealing with occultists and, well, cultists. She, along with her two friends and fellow members of the Order, Agatha, something of a hedge witch and very interested in monsters, and Samuel, the man in the van, enter the perimeter, described as a place that doesn't exist, where if you leave it, you lose all memories of ever being there. Mia's come into the perimeter to find her father, who suddenly disappeared while investigating the perimeter. Moments after starting the investigation, you find his car and his ID. Not only that, but in the trunk is the empty case that once held his gun and sword, meaning the old man came here expecting danger. And it's not long before Mia herself must confront the creatures of the perimeter and the legacy of the Straw family, a strange group of people that worshipped fear. The perimeter is strange, a region suffused with supernatural energies, and once upon a time home to an outpost of the Order, who sought to understand the workings of the place, studying every corner. The perimeter is full of dangers, but Mia is not defenseless. She's got a gun, a crowbar, and the most powerful weapon of all, Loopy, her dog, a good boy who helps Mia retain her sanity. The deductive nature of the investigation and the puzzles is Enigma of Fear's greatest strength. Much like other survival horror titles, you find clues all over the environment, in notes, diagrams, even recordings left behind by the Order team deployed in the perimeter at one point. But finding the clue is only the beginning, as they all require some form of deductive reasoning, of applying logic and figuring out what the answer is, be it the steps to open a lock or the buttons to press on a keypad. Deduction and puzzling extend even to the bosses, where the encounter is very much a violent puzzle with deadly consequences. From figuring out how to trap a hulking monstrosity to dealing with time-twisting materials and a spectral pianist. And while you can fight normal enemies with just your gun or your trusty crowbar, proving once more that crowbars are the most powerful weapons in gaming, there are enemies where some careful observation is needed to either defeat them or keep them down. Enigma of Fear, after the first section, the Straw Manor, becomes completely open-ended. You can head wherever you want to continue your investigation. Nothing forces you to head into a specific direction. In fact, to solve the mysteries of the different locales, it's often necessary to visit other places, as they may have clues or equipment that give Mia new abilities to unlock further passage, much like you would see in a Metroidvania, only instead of the ability to double jump, it's an item that lets you pick up the echoes of the departed to eavesdrop on the dead. The mysteries around the perimeter and its origin, the Straw family, Verity, the Order, and even Mia are tremendously engaging. And it's the kind of mystery where one revelation creates new questions, and only by exploring every corner and finding all the different clues can you start putting together what the truth actually is, while at the same time leaving a lot of room for player interpretation. It's a gripping tale of not just a daughter looking for her father, but of a conspiracy, time shenanigans, and bonds forged and shattered in hardship. And of course, the supernatural elements complement the human stories, as the perimeter itself, its nature, and the machinations of the straw leave lasting consequences on anyone who steps foot in their domain. In a way, the perimeter is as much of a character as Mia is. Not just the setting of the story, but a living thing, with its claws sunk deep into those within its boundaries. Not to mention, Mia's not the only character you control. There are other unlockable characters, each giving another perspective to the story, and providing critical clues to the mystery of the perimeter, but also the story being told. But much like everything else in Enigma of Fear, to get to play as those characters, you'll have to pay attention to the clues required to get them. The voice acting is great, and the music is superb, especially those big dramatic moments like the boss fights. And in the more muted sections, the sound design creates a creepy yet engaging atmosphere, especially as the music shifts depending on what's happening on screen, be it investigation or a fight for survival. And though the game can be enjoyed separate from anything related to the actual play that inspired it, it is in-universe, so there are references and bits of visual storytelling that make the experience that much more enjoyable to those familiar with Ordem Paranormal, providing additional context to the actions and personalities of some of the characters. I've only just begun learning some of this stuff, but in the Ordem Paranormal universe, the supernatural has different elements, and having an affinity for those elements can result in physical traits manifesting. Agatha, your monster and magic expert, seems to have physical traits that align with one of those elements, which would offer some clues as to her personality. My, what big teeth you have, Agatha! That's all I'll say, and leave you to consider the implications. In fact, fear itself is another element of the supernatural, not just a concept, but a real force. For me, the connection to Ordem Paranormal was the entrance to a rabbit hole I've gone into deeper and deeper, finding more things that provide additional context to the story being told. Nothing major, of course. Enigma of Fear is self-contained enough that you don't need any of this. But if, much like Mia, you investigate, you can find some very interesting things. Let's just say, Ordem Paranormal has its own alphabet, which is used in some optional stuff in Enigma of Fear. Just a little clue for you if you decide to pick up the game, as I hope you will. I rarely comment on visuals in these primers, but I love the visual design of Enigma of Fear. Pixel art combined with 3D environments? Oh yes, please! The perimeter and its locations are creepy, but the art style means everything is filled with such vibrant colors that give different locales and supernatural elements their own look, making them distinct and unique. The crystal caverns are vastly different in feel and tone to the eerie atmosphere of the graveyard or the oppressive spiral castle. Enigma of Fear's announcement and campaign included an ARG, and part of that extends into the game itself. There are several cursed objects to be found across the perimeter, and interacting with them in the central hub shows you both a clue and a text field to input an answer, and to solve the mysteries they represent, you have to think outside of the game's boundaries and use real-world decryption techniques. The rewards being some interesting answers and a few more questions. And of course, those questions and answers must also be deciphered, as they use a different writing system. I'll let you figure that one out. There are two ways to play Enigma of Fear, two difficulty settings, normal and detective. In normal mode, you have a mental map for Mia, giving you access to all locations and evidence found throughout the game. I didn't choose this path. I went for the other difficulty, detective, where there is no map for you and you must make notes with a notepad or take photos with your phone. In summary, you have to keep track of all the clues and the mysteries yourself. It's awesome. It had been so long since I had a game that actually made me write things down. And because it must be said, yes, you can pet the dog, you can hug the dog, and he's not just there for the hugs. He's an important member of the cast and the events of the story. What else could you ask for? Enigma of Fear was one of the highlights of 2024 for me. One of the best adventure, puzzle, deduction, and survival horror titles I've played in a long time, putting titles made by bigger and more famous teams to shame with the depth and complexity of its puzzles, mysteries, and narrative. I cannot recommend Enigma of Fear enough. Go give it a go. Head into the perimeter and explore every corner and unlock every secret. The characters in the universe may forget everything once they leave this place that doesn't exist, but I can assure you, your time with Enigma of Fear will be unforgettable.